The X Zone Radio Show is heard on radio broadcast affiliates worldwide, including
AM 580 CFRA in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada.
WPUL AM 1590 in Daytona Beach, Florida.
KOHI AM 1610 in St. Helens, Oregon.
KHRO AM 1150 in El Paso, Texas. And for more information on becoming a professional broadcast affiliate of the X Zone Radio Show, visit
www.xzbn.net
or call toll-free worldwide
1-800-610-7035.
The X Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Western Bay, and it serves 100 ships a day. Lonely sailors pass the time away and talk about their homes. And there's a girl in this harbor town, and she works laying whiskey down. They say, Brandy, fetch another round. She serves them whiskey and wine. The sailors say, Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you would be. Such a fine yeah, your eyes could steal a sailor from the sea. Brandy wears a braided chain.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable, and XZoneTV.com. If you'd like to give us a call, worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035 are the magic numbers. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is Scott Sorenson. He is the co-author of Before the Spill, Memoirs of Life on the Gulf Coast. He's a native of Florida's Emerald Coast and a self-proclaimed beach boy of sorts. He recently, tired of staring across mahogany tables at Michael Eisner lookalikes, and entered the literary arena again with the BP Deepwater Horizon oil tragedy just miles off the coast of his childhood playground. He felt the need to share his memoirs of what may inevitably be a lost culture. Scott and his wife Connie share their emotions, laughter, and fear of the unknown with their book, Before the Spill, Memoirs of Life on the Gulf Coast. And joining me now is Scott Sorenson. Hey, Scott, how are you?
Good afternoon, Rob. How you doing?
Good. Tell me, what was it like growing up on the Gulf Coast?
It was absolutely wonderful. If will be, it's almost like a Tom Sawyer or Huck Finn type of existence. I'm old enough to say there was back in the days when Mom could drop you off in the bay and with a crab net and an oyster and a laundry sack. You come home with half a bag full of blue crabs, and
right.
You have to worry about your kids back then. But grew up on the water, in the water, around the water, and growing up there, I thought every place in the world was like this, and after sending off to college and into the corporate arena, I soon found out that it's not.
So, Scott, what's it like in Florida these days after the Deep Horizon fiasco?
I'm working closely with a couple of environmental groups to get a pulse on what is happening other than just my community here. But speaking just locally here, it's economically, environmentally, and even socially, it's had a huge impact. Just take July 4th alone. On a day when you could only sit in your backyard and hear the traffic going over the bridge,
Right.
from the mainland to the island, and lots of activity. It was dead silence. The tourism industry took a big hit, and just the general nature of things. Restaurants and establishments and grocery stores half full of people, and locals not really knowing what to do. This is their livelihood.
Scott, stand by. You and I have to take a 2-minute commercial break. We'll be right back. X-Zone Nation. Scott Sorenson is our special guest. He's the co-author of Before the Spill, Memoirs of Life on the Gulf Coast. His website is www.beforethespill.wordpress.com. And Scott and I will be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break as the X-Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
When the bars close down.
Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you. Bermuda, Bahama, come on, pretty mama. Key Largo, Montego, baby, why don't we go? Jamaica, off the Florida Keys. There's a place called Kokomo. That's where you wanna go to get away from it all. Bodies in the sand, tropical drink melting in your hand. We'll be falling in love to the rhythm of a steel drum band. Down in Kokomo, Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you to Bermuda.
Scott Sorenson's our special guest this hour. He's the co-author of Before the Spill, Memoirs of Life on the Gulf Coast. Once again, his website is www.beforethespill.wordpress.com. So tell me, Scott, what prompted you and your wife to write this book?
Well, the spill, of course. Previous to that, I was working on a few book projects, and Connie, my wife, was working on some stories of her own having to do with living in this area. And when the tragedy did happen, I knew I had a memoir in me someday. I just didn't know it had to come this soon. And with everything that happened, I started feeling like there may possibly be a chance that my grandkids or great-grandkids may not be able to experience this part of the Gulf, this part of our region, the way I did. With the tragedy being as it is, and 40% of the oil gone missing, so to speak, we don't know what's going to happen. It could be years before we know what's going to happen. And all the time I spent in and on the water, around the water, who knows? And so I thought that I should probably tell somebody.
So tell me, Scott, what is the core of your book?
The core basically is it's going to pull at your heartstrings. It's going to show some emotion, about the people that live here, our experiences here. We wanted to help in some way. Whether I didn't want to get into the activist level, but when you talk to these environmental groups, there's so much that's being blanketed over by whether it's government agencies or news groups, news agencies. As you well know, we hear what they want us to hear, and nobody's getting down to the nitty-gritty of it. As it stands, there are hundreds of thousands of people whose lifestyle and their family's lifestyle and future generations' lifestyle and economy will be affected by this. And in my small way, I was thinking that if we could show the joy and the happiness from living here and these experiences, it might let people take a little step back at their own environment. Whether it's the city, downtown, the desert, the coast, wherever. Take a look at your own surroundings, because one day you might wake up to find that your life and your surroundings are about to change forever.
So tell me, Scott, what do you think the real story is? You talked a few moments ago about the story from the government, the story from the media. What do you think the real story is here?
The real story so far, and there was a press release that came out this morning. If you take a look back at the oil maps that that NOAA had been publishing and still is published, they would show you a history, like a topographic history of the oil spill from day one up until now. And it seemed fairly odd to me and many other people that within the course of about 3 to 5 days, this is about 60 days into it, I guess, the spill just magically disappeared. It was all this oil in the water, and they're stating now that between 25 to 40% of it was dispersed. I say quote unquote dispersed with chemical dispersants that they probably use too many of. And what those dispersants do is they sink the oil to other locations other than the surface. So of course it's not on the surface anymore. And it's that's why there's been a Clean Water Act lawsuit that's been filed, I believe by Environment America. It's a big deal. There's oil out there that nobody can account for, and I think they're just putting a huge blanket over the fact of where it really stands. And all it's going to take is a good storm to wash it up, and who knows what's going to happen? It could be tomorrow. It could be 10 years from now. But
Scott, tell me, how has this tragedy affected you personally and or emotionally?
Well, personally, this is my home. I grew up here. This is where I live, and I see me personally, but it's all of us here personally. Sure. People from Louisiana, even portions of Texas, as far over as past Apalachicola, towards Panama City, and all that. Yeah. But there's a lot of people that are in the same boat here. The economic impact can be made up later. That's I know it's cost a lot of people their jobs and their livelihood. But the long-term thing is it's not happy as a place as it used to be. You can't, when you go down the street and purchase seafood from your local, fishmonger, your seafood place, and he tells you that business is down by 70%. That's not good. And at the same time, for you to feel good about actually purchasing shrimp or fish, because you don't know what's in the fish, it's not a happy experience anymore. When you walk down to the end of the boardwalk on your beach, and there's a sign that's posted about the warning hazards of getting in the water and what may happen to your skin, and if you have respiratory problems, contact your physician immediately. Does that make for a happy beach outing? No, it doesn't.
Tell me, do you think the government is doing enough? Is BP doing enough?
BP is doing a very good job with, I guess, promoting the fact that they're doing enough. And Dr. Ricky Ott, who's she's been watching the Exxon Valdez thing since it happened 22 years ago. She's on top of all this. She has firsthand experience with how this works. And it's a bunch of unknowns. If you watch the news, if you watch the ads on television, yes, BP is doing enough. Us locals here, the people that live on the beach and live half a mile from the water, who fish here, who surf here, who their income comes from here, no, they're not doing enough. And the government, well, they've done a good job in the beginning, but I'm sure you saw the video of President Obama, and I'm not going to I'm not going to stand on any political side here. I'm sure you saw the video of President Obama swimming in the Gulf of Mexico. Well, that's great. I'm glad for him. I'm glad he had a good time. He also had a video of him playing miniature golf with his family too. So I guess for all those miniature golf people, it's okay to play that now.
Tell me, if you were at the helm of this cleanup mess, what would you have done differently than what has been done to date?
Number one, I think I'd be more upfront and upcoming with what their plans were for handling the oil. We knew about the booms. We knew about the skimming.
Yeah.
We knew about the deployment of boats with the skimming. We knew about the crews that were going to clean up the tar balls and the moose and the slicks on the beach. We knew all about that. And then they hit us with this whole dispersant thing. And it turned into a big, huge gray area. And the information that was put out regarding what the dispersants are, how they react with oil, and what they do to the ecosystem just became sort of a filtered mess.
Yeah. It seems as if there were stories that were conflicting with one another from different sources within the media as well as the government agencies and BP, so nobody really knew what to believe.
They're still conflicting. Reports this morning, the original report that it was about 25 to 40% of oil was dispersed or they didn't know where it was. This morning, we're told that that number could grow to as large as 80%.
Wow.
And that's staggering. That's just unbelievable.
Tell me, have you witnessed environmental, economical, as well as social changes since the spill?
Oh, certainly. Well, like I said, in the small town we live in, which is a city population about 25,000 people,
Right.
metropolitan about 130,000. If it weren't for the military we had here, this place would probably be a ghost town.
Wow.
People packing up, leaving, houses being foreclosed, businesses who would normally make their income throughout the course of a 3 or 4 month span, the majority of their income, shutting their doors. Unemployment is out the roof. It's sky high.
So how are people coping? How are people earning a living? How are people paying their bills? Are they losing their homes? And are they getting any compensation for all these losses?
Business owners are filing claims,
Right.
and I guess BP is paying off a portion of those claims. The smaller claims, I believe, get paid a little bit easier than the larger claims. If you had a business that was generating $50,000 a year and you lost, $25,000
Right.
because of the spill, your ability to recover that $25,000 probably not so good as the guy who just lost $3,000 in wages. That's a whole mess in
Wow.
itself.
So how do you think the local economy is ever going to be able to recover from this, Scott?
Well, we're a strong group of people here.
Right.
We've been through hurricanes. We've been through, ironically, we were right in the middle of the economic downturn, and then of course the oil spill hit. So it was like bam, bam, and but we're a strong people. We'll make it. We rely on each other. The barter system works really well.
Sure does.
We have a decent local government.
Excellent.
It might not be this year or next year, even 3 or 4 years from now, but eventually we'll be okay.
Scott, stand by. You and I have to take a commercial break, by the way. I've been down to your neck of the woods. The people are fantastic. It's a beautiful part of the country. Love Florida. And you know what? I agree with you. Things are going to turn around. I've been through Alabama. I've been through, all the areas of Florida. In fact, the Satellite Uplink Center for Talkstar Radio Network is in White Springs. White Springs as well as Titusville. So been down there a few times. Great people. Scott Sorenson, thanks very much for joining us. You and I have to take our news break. We'll be back on the other side in a couple of minutes. Please don't go away, Scott. Scott Sorenson's our guest, ExoNation, www.beforethespill.wordpress.com, and we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break and with the news, as I said, as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I'd like to give us a call worldwide, toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. We'll be back on the other side of the news. Don't go away.
Where you wanna go to get away from it all. Bodies in the sand, tropical drink melting in your hand.
You're listening to the X Zone Radio Show, live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network. X Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio,
Euro High Definition Radio,
and Star Cable. Our toll-free telephone number worldwide is 1-800-610-7035.
Our email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com.
On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com,
And our website,
www.xzoneradiotv.com.
Breaks and movies rang true. Been working so hard, I'm punching my card. 8 hours for what? Oh, tell me what I got. I got this feeling that time's just holding me down. I'll hit the ceiling, or else I'll tear up this town. Now I gotta cut loose, foot loose.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. Before I get back to my special guest this hour, Scott Sorenson, we've been doing something with members of the different school boards in Ontario, and we've got a new segment coming to the show called "Where Does It Come From?" And what we did was we sent emails to the various school boards saying, "Listen, if anyone has a question that they'd like to send us here to the X Zone, we'll produce a small production." That is called "Where Does It Come From?" And we'll give an explanation now. Some of the questions that we've received from students across the province of Ontario, and starting next week, we're going to be asking you, the members of the X Zone Nation, especially the kids, if they have any questions that they'd like us to answer. So here's some of the questions. Let's see. How did the universe start? Where did the planets come from? How do stars form? What are galaxies? What is a black hole? Why do we have a moon? Why do species become extinct? Why are there so many different types of living things? And these are just some of the many questions that have come to us from students across Ontario. And like I said, we're going to be opening up this segment to the X Zone Nation around the world. And if you'd like to send in your question, just tell us how old you are, where you go to school, and then your question, and send it to Where Does It Come From? At xzoneradiotv.com. That's Where Does It Come From? At xzoneradiotv.com. Scott Sorenson is our guest this hour, X Zone Nation. He is the co-author with his wife Connie of Before the Spill, Memoirs of Life on the Gulf Coast. Now, I must tell you, X Zone Nation, if you've never had the opportunity of going to the southern part of the United States, the Gulf Coast of Florida, Alabama, Texas, New Orleans, Louisiana, that entire area, you are missing something wonderful. The most friendliest people you will ever meet, the greatest food you'll ever eat, the greatest beaches you will ever swim in. Do yourself a favor. If you can, go down to the Gulf Coast. These are great times. Yes, there are those people who may be leery, but you know what? There's plenty to do down there. Plenty to do, plenty to see. I guarantee you'll have a great time. Laura and I were down there 4 years ago. I co-hosted the New Year's Eve gala from the Kennedy Space Center. We had a great time. It was at Cape Canaveral. Now I keep on. Why did they ever change that in the first place? They should have just left it the way it was.
I agree.
It screws me up all the time. Anyway, great people, and Scott, you and I were talking during the commercial break that the people down in your area, a lot of people that I would imagine you people never thought really cared, different environmental groups, really came to the aid of their friends and their fellow Americans.
Yep, yes, they did. Even from a local level, we had a great response from fishermen, just locals wanting to volunteer. I would say the response for volunteer efforts probably equaled that of people that were applying for jobs for the BP contractors, the cleanup contractors. So the response was amazing, and it continues to do so. And that's not going to go away.
Scott, what does your book offer that the reader cannot find in the news?
It offers an insight as to what it really is like to live here, and what we may very well lose if any of this goes wrong and it doesn't get cleaned up. We all come from different parts of the country, and we all have our special little hometown surroundings that we take for granted. And I think this book will not only show people our appreciation for having the chance to live here and grow up here and experience how beautiful it is, but it'll probably give them a better understanding and awareness of their own surroundings, and what might happen if that goes away. Because tragedy can happen anywhere, and it does. We see the floods up north, and we see tornadoes, and things happen to people all over the country and all over the world, and you really have to stop and look and be appreciative.
Yeah. What do you find has been the most noticeable change, Scott, since the BP oil disaster? I'm
going to say the economy. The economy has just really tanked out, and that's the most disheartening thing. But like I said before, that's probably the most recoverable. That's people downtown, local businesses that cannot operate, cannot support their families, or have to claim unemployment,
right,
or file claims. That's probably the most. It's just that there's no money being spent here anymore, and the tourists didn't come here this year because the beaches were tainted. The water's tainted. So
now tell me, do you think the water is tainted? Are the beaches safe? Is the water safe?
My personal opinion,
yes.
No, and they need to prove this to all of us and everybody that it's not before it's the mainstream. From what you hear in the news, the oil's gone. It's not. Like I said, 200 million gallons of oil spilled from that disaster, and at least 35 to 40% of that, they don't know where it's gone. And like I said, the reports this morning state that probably a good majority of it is sitting off the Gulf Coast Canyon and just waiting to come up. Now, the dispersants they use, we don't know the effect of those on the ecosystem. We don't know the effect of that on humans. We're not convinced that the FDA even has a way to test for those chemicals in the fish and the oysters and the shrimp. It's scary. It's a big leap into the unknown right now.
But there are other things to do on the Gulf Coast besides the beaches.
Oh, certainly,
yeah.
Of course, yes. There's beautiful things to do down here. I mean, just
come on, here's your chance to promote the Gulf Coast, my friend.
You're exactly right. Yes, exactly. There's tons of things to do down here. I'm just looking at the beach itself is a wonder. Just walking in the sand is a wonder. Taking a stroll down one of the intercoastal waterways, or hitting these little small towns that have these small seafood festivals or in-town festivals. There's lots to do down here. That you don't just have to get in the Gulf of Mexico or in the intercoastal waterway or the bay to enjoy it.
What would you like readers to gain from reading your book?
Basically, just another self-awareness. There's a self-awareness of your surroundings, and what does your life really mean to you? I'm going to share, Connie and I'm going to share what our life really meant to us living here, and I think people take that for granted. I know I did. I would have never imagined a year ago that I would be sitting here writing a book about how an oil spill has changed my life and the lives of hundreds of thousands of others. If somebody said that was going to happen, I said, "You're crazy. It's not going to happen. It doesn't happen here." It just gives you a perspective of what may change.
How do you think your book is going to affect the readers? That may be a hard question for you to answer, but I felt it's very important that I ask you, the author.
They're gonna laugh. They're gonna cry. They're gonna feel a gnawing sense of emotion, and they're gonna ask some questions, and some of those questions may very well be, what is big business / oil / government? What are they really doing for us? Are there strategies in place to protect us from this happening again? What can I do in my community to keep a thing of this nature from happening? They can have some more insight into what life really means to them.
Why do you feel you're the best person with your wife, Connie, to write this book?
Being a lifelong native of Florida and growing up in this region, spending most of my life here, I took full advantage of living here, and in doing so, it's just a really special part of me, and the kind of person that I grew up to be, and my wife, she was originally from Orlando. And I told her before we moved up here, I said, look, before I even take you up there for the first time, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to warn you, you're going to fall in love. You're going to fall in love with the beach and the sand and the people and the seafood water, and you're going to beg me to stay. And sure enough, she did. 2 years later, said we had to move there. We had to move back, and we did. We changed our life and came back and sort of semi-retired here, and she looks at this place as like a child, looking at something mesmerizing for the first time. She looks at it through a different set of eyes than I do. Being the native,
right?
She sees things that maybe I even overlooked. It's an interesting perspective. Her portion of the book.
So I guess sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees.
Exactly. to make assumptions in your daily routine.
When you go to coffee in the morning, like here in Hamilton where I live, there's a coffee shop that I go to every morning, and I have my coffee, I read my newspaper, and it wasn't very long that there was a little group of us getting together, and we talk about the different events of the days. When you get together in the morning and have coffee at your local restaurant or coffee shop, what are the locals talking about?
Yeah, that's changed over the last few months. In the beginning, there was anger. There was despair, there was doom. Everybody walked on with a knot, and a pit in their stomach about, oh, geez, what's going to happen? How is this going to affect us? We don't know what's going to happen in the future, and that has changed recently. On the most part, we've stopped, pointing fingers on a daily basis. Not to say that pointing fingers is not a good thing to do because somebody's responsible for this, but we've stopped spending too much time on it. We've sort of put the anger aside, put the grief aside, and started to look in the future about what can we do now to make this better tomorrow. A really positive outlook.
Did the community pull together as soon as they learned of the disaster? Oh
yes, most definitely. It's amazing how groups, regardless of their differences and economic backgrounds or social backgrounds, it's amazing how you can come together as one when something of this nature happens.
Just amazing. How are the children, the younger people, taking the disaster?
Well, they're seeing some differences because the trip to the grocery store maybe is not as is a little more thrifty than it used to be. Money's not around as much. The typical family who dad had a charter boat, who's bringing home maybe $100,000 for during the summer.
Right.
Well, that went away. Okay, so you're not. Purchases are different. You don't go out as much. You keep an eye on your finances. So the kids probably saw the financial part of it. the little kids probably don't understand why they didn't get to go to the beaches often, why they can't play with little brown, black balls on the beach. So it affected the kids, on a playground / economic level.
Did the merchants take advantage of the situation, or have the merchants been working with the community?
No, I've seen no evidence of anyone taking advantage of the situation. The only thing that has disturbed me a little bit was the seafood, which nobody's 100% sure yet whether it's safe to eat, and there are some restaurants and establishments that are promoting that it's okay. I don't know if they should be doing that so forcefully, because in a lot of people's opinions, we're just not sure yet about the quality of the seafood that's coming out of the Gulf right now.
You and I have to take our final break, Scott. Please stand by. Exonation Scott Sorenson is our special guest of this hour. He is the co-author with his wife Connie of Before the Spill, Memoirs of Life on the Gulf Coast. Their website is www.beforethespill.wordpress.com. And I'll be back as we do our wrap-up of tonight for Wednesday, August the 18th, 2010, here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell. 1-800-610-7035 is our toll-free number. Email address xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. I'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone. Scott Sorenson is our special guest. He, along with his wife, Connie, have written Before the Spill, Memoirs of Life on the Gulf Coast. Their website is www.beforethespill.wordpress.com. What is your favorite part of the book, Scott?
Probably my wife's entries. I've read mine so many times over and over again. Through the editing process, I'm getting bored with my stuff. But Connie has an interesting outlook. She has a different way of looking at things. That's a little bit more simplistic and of the moment. But I've really enjoyed working with her.
What was the hardest chapter for you to write in your book?
I would say probably the getting my anger out, in the introduction to the book and the prologue of the book, where, which is the part where I really do get a little bit of angry with what happened and why it happened and who's responsible and what's going to happen. That was probably the most difficult part, because you got to find a stopping point. You can't. Otherwise, it's not the kind of book I want to write anymore. It just becomes a venting of emotion and anger.
I have to ask you, what was it like co-authoring a book with your wife?
Most people would think that'd be problematic and cumbersome, but it wasn't. Connie and I have spent probably 80% of our married life together, working together, whether it's been business partners or working hand in hand, and it was a lot easier. Some rough spots in the beginning, but when you're working with two so-called artists, that's what usually happens. But it's come along really, really well, and it's come along so well that I don't doubt that we do 2 or 3 books together like that. It's just it's a great way to lay a book out. It's not like a he said, she said. It's more like a your opinion and her opinion, but the same opinion, just worded a little bit differently. And it's interesting. It's great for the reader.
Scott, what would you like to tell the world? You've got about 30 seconds.
Just one final statement. People that listen to CNN, you listen to your local news, and people have to understand that things are not better now, that there is no oil gushing into the Gulf. The dispersed oil is still in the water. It's just not on the surface, and it's going to have a far-reaching impact for communities and people, for years to come. The oil industry and the government are trying to act like it's mostly all gone, but scientists and fishermen continue to find it underwater in places that are supposed to be clean. We can't let BP off the hook until we know the full extent of these damages.
Scott, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Please give my very best to Connie. Congratulations on your book.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being there for us and for getting this message. And don't forget the rest of the people throughout the United States and Canada. We may not be down there, but you guys are in our prayers.
And we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Take care, Scott. Scott Sorenson. Okay. He is the co-author with his wife Connie of Before the Spill, Memoirs of Life on the Gulf Coast. The website is www.beforethespill.wordpress.com. Well, that's it for tonight, everyone. Thank you to all our affiliates for carrying the show. Thank you to you, the members of the X Zone Nation, for allowing us to be part of your day or night, no matter where you are in this great big world of ours. As always, take care of your children. Tell them you love them. Give them a kiss. They're the leaders of tomorrow. And always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.
I know